So you're going to start in hero's pose. So you're going to go straight into the knees. You're going to take the block and have that portrait wise on the mat so that we can bring the knees together. Take the feet out wider than the hips and then slowly set yourself back. Now, depending on what you've been doing and how tight your quads are, either naturally or because of previous exercises that you've been working through. Yeah, if they're as tight as concrete, you just need to ease in very slowly. Those calf muscles will, if you press them, they're going to feel quite substantial and sort of solid. So we'll just wait for them to loosen up a little bit. So a few minutes here to just take our breath. Lengthen the spine out. Got the wriggle through the shoulders and the neck. And we're just going to settle and breathe. So to make it a little easier for the hands, sometimes people don't know what to do with them. There is actually a mudra that we can do where we take the left hand and the thumb points forward, so palm up, and then we place the right hand on top and have the thumbs connect. And just lay those hands down in the laps. And then breathe. Now, once you get used to having your hands in this offset position, you'll actually notice that it's quite a comfortable place to be. The shoulders can relax down and out. And now we've been here for a couple of minutes. You might have noticed some softening in the muscles in the legs. It might just start to become a little bit more, I guess you could say a little bit more like jelly. They're moving from concrete state to a little bit something softer. Now we're going to take ourselves into a neck stretch. So we can take that right arm up, place that arm over the top of the head and just have the hand come towards the ear, and then let the weight of the arm sink into the neck as we relax the shoulder down. Gently relax the hand down, bring the neck back. Take it up to the second side. Then try and relax the shoulder down. And then we'll release from there. We'll come up onto all fours. So just move in the block out to the side. Rearranging the knees. So eventually they can come underneath the hips. You might need to stretch the legs out a little bit just to get the blood flow to come back in. And we're going to take a side bend in this tabletop position. So we're going to drop the right hip down, sorry, the right shoulder down towards the right hip and bring the right hip towards the shoulder. So we're decreasing the distance between the shoulder and the hip on the right side. Come back into the center, take it over to the left. And we'll let the head look round a little bit towards the back of the mat as well. So not only are we getting the lateral bend in the spine, but we're also getting it a little bit into the neck as well. Just moving gently from one side to the other. It's strange, this seems like a really easy thing to do, but I noticed that my sides really do notice this the day after. It's like, well, how, with all those side bends and side stretches and everything else I do, do my muscles not appreciate that I'm able to do this? Come over to the left side for the last time, just squeezing the shoulder and the hip together. We're back into the center, and then we'll take that into cat-cow. So we'll draw the chest forwards, tilt the tailbone under, roll through the spine. Get a little bit of flex in the forwards and backwards directions, having done the sides. Again, just moving through slowly so you can feel the smaller muscles and the smaller bones in the spine gliding and moving around, making space. Take a little bit of time to appreciate stretching out the hands as well. And we're going to come back into neutral, keeping the knees in that hip distance stance. We're going to sit back into child's pose. So it's the narrow legged version. We'll ease the head down towards the ground and walk the hands forwards. Maybe the head touches the ground, maybe it doesn't. I'm just pressing very lightly into the hands so the arms have got some sense of being active rather than just hanging out. Breathe nice and deeply into the back of the ribs. Sort of stretching the glutes and the lower back as your diaphragm expands. And then we'll come back up. So from child's pose, we'll take a baby side plank. We'll bring the left hand in line with the left knee, take the left foot off to the side of the mat, tuck toes on the right foot under and lengthen that leg out, press out through the heel. And then drop the foot onto the side edge so the sole of the foot can come flat to the floor. And we're going to lift that top arm up, press down through the bottom hand, nice and strong, lift the hips up as if we're trying to take the knee off the floor. If you want to take it a little stronger, you can get a little bit of lift and actually bring the knee away from the ground. If you're happy to just work on kind of still keeping everything attached to the ground but pressing in, if that's just as effective, that's just fine. Bring our hands back down to the floor, back into all fours, and then bring that right hand in as we swing the right foot out. Left leg goes back, press out through the heel again. And then we drop the sole of the foot down and open up. So as you do this, you want to check that you kind of press the hips forwards a little bit as well. So you keep a nice alignment down the body from the foot through the hips, shoulders, and that hand. A little bit easy for the bottom to wander out to the side. Still growing the body, expanding, stretching it out. And then bringing everything back down to the floor. And from the tabletop position at the front of the mat, we'll tuck the toes underneath and take ourselves into a down dog. Just allow ourselves a little time to adjust. So moving the feet around, moving the hands around, getting into a nice place. And then we'll float forwards into a plank. Roll over the toes, let the knees come to the floor. Sit back into child's pose. Head to the ground. Inhale back up onto all fours. Into the tabletop position. We tuck the toes underneath. Move ourselves back into a down dog. Come forwards into plank. Roll over the toes. Knees to the floor. Child's pose back into tabletop. To down dog. Into plank. Roll over the toes again. Knees to the floor. Gently back down into that child's pose. Inhale up. Roll the shoulders back. And down dog. I'll walk the hands this time in towards the toes. Coming into forward fold at the back of the mat. Give yourself a couple of long exhales here where you can draw the belly in and let the body sink over the thighs. And we'll bring hands onto the hips. Soften the knees a little more, draw the spine long and flat, and then drive through the legs to lift up. So we come back up to standing, and we'll move our way into the front of the mat. We're going to have the toes come together so that they touch, a little gap for the heels, and then we'll take the arms out wide and inhale the hands up above the head. Palms touch. And bring the hands back through to the heart as we exhale down towards the ground with the hands, and then inhaling up. So just nice little simple arm flow. And then we'll take that into a forward fold this time. Being conscious that the legs are a little bit narrower set, so the hamstrings will feel this in a slightly different place. So be careful as you come down. Put hands onto the shins to lift up halfway. Draw the body forwards. Try and keep the weight even through the foot rather than just in the heel. Fold it back down again. I'm going to take a little breath from here and lift the toes of your right foot. Place your right hand underneath. Take a little breath, lift the toes of the left foot. Bring that hand underneath. So standing on the palms of your hands, trying to get the wrists close to the floor. However much you need to bend the knees, you take that opportunity. Now, there is a sense of lifting the hips up towards the sky. And then we'll release the right hand, release the left hand. Bring the hands onto the hips, soften the knees, drive our way up. Inhale high. Bring the hands into the heart. Soften the knees over the toes and sit back into chair. And take a little breath, bring the left elbow across to the right side, the chest forwards. Sit the bottom down as low as you dare. Try and roll the top shoulder back towards the opposite side of the mat you're facing. Okay, we'll come back to the center. Take that right elbow over to the left side. We get a little bit of length in the body. We keep the legs pressing together. And we feel steady. Start to draw the shoulder back. Coming through the center again. Try for your legs to lift up. Put the hands high and wide. Into the heart. Then we're going to step out to the right side. So take a nice long step. And we'll come into star pose. Slowly turn the feet towards the front of the mat to come into warrior two. So bend that knee gently. Make sure the back foot is turned as well. We're going to straighten the front leg. Send the hips towards the back of the mat. And lengthen out slowly. And then bring that hand down onto the shin. Come into triangle pose. So the reason we come down slow is one, to keep the length in the spine. You're waiting for the hips to move around underneath you. So rather than trying to get the spine to take all the lateral loading, try to move the hips around underneath. If we do that too quickly, we don't really have time to adjust. Muscles kind of tighten up around the joints before we start to move into it. So these deliberately slow moves have a purpose. I'm going to soften the front knee. Bring the top arm up from the up position down to the floor. So both hands come onto the inside of that front leg. We'll move the hands around gently to the long side of the mat, turning the toes in on both feet. And then I'm going to place the left hand on the floor and draw the right arm slowly up towards the sky. We'll come back down to the floor, cross over, take the other hand up. Bring the hand back down to the floor. Keep that spine nice and long. A little bit of weight through the legs. So squeezing the thighs together as you press down through the feet. Now we'll come one more time to each side. Right, so to come onto the fingertips, soften the knees a fraction, then bring your hands onto the hips and let yourself lift up. Come back into that star pose. And we're going to turn the toes towards the back of the mat and sink into our warrior two. A little look down. Check you got that front foot pointing in the direction you want. A little look down to the back foot. Make sure that's turned in and you're happy where your hips are. And then we'll slowly straighten the front legs. Send the hips out towards the front end of the mat, away from us. Lengthen the body out slow. Bring the hands down onto the shin and one up towards the sky. Now, there are, in fact, supposed to be more than one triangle in this pose. There are a right number. We got the first triangle between the legs. The second triangle between the bottom arm and the front leg. And then the third triangle is from the fingertips of the hand towards the sky to the foot on the floor at the front, and then down to the foot on the rear. It gives you some idea of where you want the torso to be. Now soften the front knee, bring both hands down onto the inside of that front leg, walk the fingers around. Start with the opposite hand on the floor this time. Taking the arm up towards the sky, we breathe in. Exhale, we come down. 2 more times. Last time. Take a little softness in the knees. Bring the hands onto the hips. Keep the spine flat and long as we lift up. Take the arms out back into that star position. We turn the toes to the front of the mat again. Let ourselves come into warrior 2. Bring the hands in towards the heart. We breathe in. We turn the body towards the front of the mat. Send the palms forwards, elbows down. You're going to lean out across the front thigh. Stretch your right arm forwards and your left hand back, as if you're pressing an army that are advancing towards you away. Slowly bring your left hand forwards so the hands line up. Draw the right arm back up as you come back into warrior 2. Straighten the front leg and send the hips back to glide into the triangle pose. Bring the hands down. One arm up. Take a little breath. Soften the front knee. Bring the hands down onto the inside of the front foot. Fingers walk around alongside of the mat. Spine is long. We took a little bit of softness into the knees as we bring the hands behind onto the pelvis, interlacing the hands. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. And then we'll hinge forwards. Let the body sink in. Keep the shoulder blades squeezing together. And then try and take the hands up towards the sky. And if possible, over the head, out to the side of the mat. Keep pressing the legs down into the floor. Through those feet, nice and even. A little bit of squeeziness going through the groins. Okay, we'll release the hands down to the hips and then down to the floor underneath us to lift up halfway. Soften the knees again. Bring the hands onto the hips. Lift ourselves up. Turn the arms out again into that star pose. Turn the toes towards the back of the mat. Sink into our warrior 2. Bring the hands in towards your heart. Turn your body into that front foot. Allow yourself to extend right arm forwards. Sorry, left arm forwards, right arm backwards. Bring the right arm forward so the 2 arms line up. Allow yourself to draw that top arm up and over back into warrior 2. Straighten the front leg, send the hips out behind you. Lengthen out slow into your triangle pose. Soften the front knee. Bring the hands down. Inside of the front foot. You know where we're going. Back out to the side. Taking a little breath. Soften the knees. Hands come behind. Interlace the hands. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Take a little breath. Hinge over and down. Then lift the hands high. You squeeze the shoulder blades. Take your focus back into your legs. And then draw the hands over and up. One more breath. Bring the hands back to the hips, soften the knees. Lengthen the body forwards, bring the hands to the floor in front of you. Now walk the fingers around to the front of the mat this time. Going to take a little step into our forward fold. Feet are about hip distance apart and parallel. Hands back onto the hips. And slowly lift up. Whew. So slow, but definitely strong. And shake out the legs a little bit and the arms. Let the breath come back. The heart. So not sort of anaerobically challenging, but yeah, still got a bit of breath going on. And coming back from mountain pose, we'll take the hands high on the breath in. And towards the heart as we take that forward fold. Stepping back with the right foot, drop the heel in, ready for warrior two. Hands alongside the body to lift, and we cartwheel open. Come back into advancing warrior. So the hands coming towards the heart, we take the breath in. Turn towards the front of the mat. Draw the belly in as we lean out. Right arm forwards. Left arm floats through. Right arm lifts us back into warrior two. Straighten the front leg. Into our triangle pose. We lengthen out. Now we're going to soften the front knee. Take the hand down to the floor. This is where the brick can come in handy, because if reaching the floor is a little bit tricky, you just bring the brick in, or the block. You can have a block flat. It's obviously not quite as high as the brick, but it kind of works. Take a little breath, and you want the hand a little bit out to the side of the foot. Going to step the back foot in about halfway, so you lean into the front knee a little more. Slide the brick and the block a little bit further forwards, and then slowly take the back foot off the ground. With the toes pointing out to the side with a flexed foot. Top arm up towards the sky. Roll that top shoulder back, just like we did in triangle pose. If you want to try and take the hand off of the floor, lift up onto the fingertips. Make sure you feel steady in your foot. And then if you want to, you can take the hands away from the floor. The progression is just to have the fingertips, so there's very little weight. Okay, I'm going to soften the front knee. Come back to warrior two. Inhale the hands high. Rotate the body, lengthen out. Bring ourselves back to the floor. Step into the front of the mat. Take a little breath. Hands onto the hips. And lift our way up. Take hands high again. Exhale the hands through the heart. Forwards and down. You're taking that left foot behind us. Dropping the heel in. Hands alongside the body. Open up into our warrior two. Hands in towards the heart. Advancing warrior. Left hand goes forwards, right arm comes back. Right arm floats forwards. And the left arm opens back up into the warrior two. Straighten the front leg. Send the hips back. Lengthen out into the triangle pose. Soften the front knee. Move the brick and the block to wherever we need. Step the back foot in about halfway. Take a little breath. Slowly lift the back foot away from the ground. Flex the foot, spread the toes. Press out through the heel. Up onto the fingertips if you wish. Or you can take the hands away from the floor. You'll just find that it gets a little easier to straighten the front leg the higher up you are. And looking to the ground always helps keep a balance. Looking to the side or to the sky increases the challenge. Last breath here. And we'll soften the front knee back into warrior two. Float the hands high. Lengthen down to the floor. Step into the front of the mat, into the forward fold. Sink in deep. Hands onto those hip bones as we lift up. We'll come high again. Into the heart. And exhaling down. We'll step back into our down dog. We'll take a few breaths here. And we'll come into a plank and let the knees come down to the floor. Bootlaces down, we'll sit onto the heels. And we're going to take our block, which may have been at the front of the mat or out to the side, depending on how much equipment you got, to our toes behind us. We'll come forwards. We're going to move into Malasana, so squat pose. We take the feet out about the same distance apart as before. And then just let heels sit down. So in that nice squatting position, you can adjust a little bit more once you arrive, just gently moving, wriggling around till you find an optimal place for your hips, feet, etc., and ankles. And then we're going to take the arms out wide. We're just pressing the back of the arms into the legs a little bit. Draw the belly in, lift the chest, take a breath in. And then on the exhale, we'll lift up. Hands above the head, into the heart. Exhale our way down slow. Take the arms out wide, that little press into the thighs and lift. Coming back down. Lift. This is our final time coming down. Hands to the floor. Move the block out of the way. Allow yourself to move your fingers forwards. We'll gently bring ourselves into down dog. Just adjusting the feet back into our preferred position. Walking the legs out a little from side to side. And we'll move into plank. The knees come to the floor, bend the elbows, we're coming down onto our bellies. I'm going to take the hands a little closer down towards the ribs than we normally do for low cobra. Going to have the feet about hip distance apart, bootlaces down, heels roll out a little bit, lengthen the legs away, press the thighs into the floor, take the breath in, lift the chest, and then try and squeeze the elbows together behind you. That will successfully squeeze your shoulder blades together as well. Exhale on the way down, release a little bit, lift up on the inhale, and squeeze those elbows together, and back down, lift up a little, squeeze back, and down. One more time. And down. Okay, you're going to take the hands out to the side of the body. So we're going to lift hands and chest, arms away from the floor on the inhale. Keeping the thighs and the feet connected to the ground. Exhale on the way down. Try to keep the neck in line with the body. So you're not pulling on the neck too much. Again, a little squeeze of the shoulder blades together. 2 more. And then we'll come into the fuller version of locust, taking the thighs away from the floor as well. That's 5. Last one. Now you're going to bend the right leg and bring the heel in. Take your hands around the ankle. Do the same with the opposite leg. And then press the hips down into the floor. Then the knees lengthen away. Start to flex through the ankles. And come into bow pose. So I'm going to press the shins towards the back of the mat. Shoulder blades squeeze together naturally as the chest lifts. And then on the exhale, start to press the soles of the feet to the sky to get that little bit of lift of thighs away from the floor. Remember to breathe. Remember to keep pressing the shins back and up. And we're back down to the floor. Woohoo! And releasing. Okay, we're going to take a little breath from here. Keeping the head the same end of the mat, we're going to roll onto our spines. And bring the feet in towards your bottom. Allow yourself to take the arms out wide. Take a moment just to really let the spine lengthen out. Floor's off the mat. And then we'll take a little side twist here. So we'll shimmy to our left, let the legs go to our right. And then we'll bring the knees back up. Center. Shimmy to the right, legs to the left. Now, I'll keep the body where it is. Take both arms out nice and wide. And then I'm going to bring my right hand onto my chest. Slide that across my chest and down my left arm. And stretch my fingers past my left hand. Top hand slides a little bit further forwards. Then I'm going to make a semicircle with this top arm. With the fingers staying on the floor, just drawing the hands above my head slowly. Just that one arm lifts up. Goes across the floor. Once he's moved all the props out of the way, start to roll the shoulder down onto the ground, keeping the legs where they were. I take the arm all the way out to that 180, and then bring the hand back onto the chest. Slide. Let the hand glide past a little bit. Roll it up and over. Across again. And one more. Being completely honest, I lost count there. It's supposed to be 5. Not sure if that's 4 or 6. Hopefully I'm in the middle. Okay, and then bring the knees back up. Center again. Shimmy left, legs down right. Left hand comes onto the chest, slides out along that right arm. And to further forwards, glide the hands up and over into the semicircles. Try to keep the legs pretty much in the same position. They will open out a little bit, but hopefully we can minimize that. Again, remember to try and reach the fingers a little bit further forwards on that top hand. And we'll come back into the center and give ourselves a little shimmy through the spine. Realign. Wriggled around quite a lot on that one. Now I'm going to draw the knees in towards the chest. Bring my chin in towards my chest. And take my arms around my shins. Have a little hug. So the spine rounded. I can roll a little bit from side to side if that feels nice. Chin tucked in. I roll onto my right side. Use the hands to come back up. Legs out in front, and I take my block underneath my bottom. Lift up nice and tall to Dandasana. I'm just going to take a moment to kind of let my body take stock of what it's been through. I'm going to lengthen out through the heels, flex the toes back and spread them out. Lightly press the sitting bones into the floor. Lengthen out the back of the neck a little bit. Now move from here to Janu Shasana. Bringing the right heel in towards the thigh. The foot stays flexed a little bit, so the foot is more following the line of the leg out. So you can kind of just got that little bit of work going in. Try and get the shin down to the floor. If not, we can pack it with whatever we've got available. Turn the hips in a little bit, return the thigh in as well. Just put a tiny bend in the knee. And we already start to contract the thigh back, even though we're lengthening out through the heel a little bit. We'll bring the hands onto the shins to lift up and square the shoulders and hips to the front of the mat. And then we'll fold over. I'm going to hold this for quite a while. First 30 seconds or so is about letting the body get used to the shape. And then the second 30 seconds is about lengthening out. So trying to have the chest square to the ground. You might notice that it feels like you're kind of rolling over to the side a little bit. So just easing that down into a flatter position. And then we're going to start to draw the hip back on this lengthened out leg and watch our knee slowly move a little bit further down as the leg lengthens out. Keep the belly drawn in. And then we're ready to release and come back up. And we'll take it into the second side. So feet come together into the Dandasana position. Foot comes in. Remember, his foot is flexed, pressing lightly into the thigh. Square the hips, square this long leg as well. We put a little bend in, start to draw the thigh back. Hands onto the shin. Lift up. And fold out. And just work on letting the body get used to the position. And you can come into the forward fold in lots of different ways. You could come into it completely loose and just kind of flop down. But the alternative way is to actually activate all of the muscles. And then quite often I cue just one set of muscles so that you can work particularly on that. Today we're trying to get everything to come into place. We start to draw this hip back. And as you do, you'll notice your knee just descends a little bit. Be careful that you're not pressing down into the knee. So if you have actually pulled the hip back and the leg has straightened out, it should not be pressing down onto the knee. Just very light with the weight of the hands on the front shin. And we can release from there as well. So we'll come back up. We'll take a seated twist now. So I'll bring the right foot underneath, left leg out in front, and then hook that left leg back in, closest to the body as I can. So I've got more chance of getting the foot flat to the floor and the knee high. Tilt the pelvis forwards. Take the right arm up, float it round. Cantilever the arm and the leg. Take the back hand behind and look over the rear shoulder. Draw the belly in a little bit. So the breath is more in the chest. And we'll release from there. Untangle the legs. Take them back out in front again. We'll set the second side up. Taking plenty of time. Come into the pose. Release from there as well. Taking the legs out in front. I'm going to move myself off of the block just a little forwards. legs flat to the floor, and then put a bend into the knees and draw the thighs back again. Press the heels into the floor, bring the hands onto the shin, flex the feet back, lift the body up, and take a seated forward fold. So try and draw the body forwards. Slide the hands down to either the outside edge of the feet, or if you're able to get further forwards, you might be able to take the hands and bind around the feet completely, or even hold on to the wrists out there, or you might have your hands quite a lot further back on the ankles, not a problem. Wherever you are, make sure you've got a strong contact with the hands, and then draw the chest forwards and pull the arms back a little bit as you draw the belly in. Just slowly increase the effort. So only a couple of pounds of effort, but it's just a slow increase in there. An opportunity to, if you're holding on the side edge of the feet, to roll the little toes back a little bit. That brings the thighs more into an internal rotation. Last breath, and then release. And we'll come into final Shavasana. So we'll take the block behind, knees come up, hands behind, got plenty of time. Roll the spine down gently. Let the head come onto the block or the floor, whichever you're using. I'm going to slide the leg slowly out to each corner of the mat. And then just let the legs roll out. So this is the wriggly time. Letting the shoulders find their comfy place, lengthening out through the legs, moving the buttocks around a little bit underneath, adjusting our clothing if we need to. And then finally, as we settle, the last little wriggle through the fingers and toes. And then we relax the fingers, palms facing up. And we're going to just gently pump the feet up and down. As you do that, the whole of your body will kind of jiggle along with it. Do this for about a minute. Notice that kind of pulsing in the breath, moving along with the flicking of the feet, flippity flop. Gradually stop with the feet. More slowly start to stretch the fingers and toes. Let the hands and the wrists, ankles and the feet start to take a little motion as well. Breathe a couple of deeper breaths. And let us just stretch it all back out. Draw the heels in gently. Take super easy hug or shrug or a little bit of both. So whatever feels nicest and easiest in the muscles. Be conscious of how you move, how big the movements are, how you treat the joints and the muscles. Now when you're ready, I'm going to slowly roll into our right side. Take a breath here on the ground. Use the exhale to press into the floor. Coming up nice and smoothly. Back into seated posture. Take a little time for the spine to lengthen, the shoulders to relax, and the head to clear. And we'll bring the hands back in towards the heart. Taking the breath in. And as we exhale, we'll let the chin drop in, draw the belly to the spine, ease our way down to the floor. Still in our practice. Taking the breath back in, we'll lift, lengthen, eyes open, namaste. Thank you very much for joining me today on the mat. Hope you enjoyed. See you again here soon.